Well, I have to say this is the most versatile jig I have made in my workshop in a long while. You can clamp this down to your material very easily, so you can run your circular saw against the straight edge. Or maybe you want to use your jigsaw to make straight cuts. Or maybe you want to use your router to create dados, channels, grooves, or even tenons nicely and precisely. It's a simple build from few materials that will definitely help you out in your workshop chores. So check out the video. So a simple project ahead of us, and I found these two pieces of plywood lying about in my workshop. These are 10mm in thickness, so let's cut them to the right sizes first. The size of this jig really depends on your needs. In my case, I'm gonna go for 80mm wide by 450mm long, that's for the long part, and 100mm wide by 400mm long, that's for the cross part. And as you can see, I'm using my table saw and my miter saw to get both to the right dimensions. Right, now we need to connect both pieces. So I've marked off 14cm from the edge on the right hand side, as that will accommodate the base of my circular saw. So measure the base and make sure that the initial cut that we're going to do with this jig, actually the blade goes on our jig. That will give us a perfect representation of where the blade's gonna go. Now this part is crucial. Both of the pieces need to be at perfect squareness to each other. So what I would suggest, grab yourself a known square that is square and basically clamp it down to the cross piece. And that will ensure that both of the pieces will be perfectly square to each other. Now in my case, I'm using CA glue and wood glue, and then I'm going to secure it with some screws. Now I do want to add some additional clamping solutions here. So instead of just clamping this edge to the material, for example, if the material is actually quite long, then I'm going to pre-drill a hole here with a force bit, 35mm, and create a channel for a clamp. Now I'm using my pillar drill to do this hole. However, if you don't have a pillar drill, just use a normal drill. Just make sure to clamp down your jig so it doesn't move on you as you are creating the hole. And now with my bandsaw, I'm cutting out the channel. However, if you don't have a bandsaw, just use the jigsaw. Okay, now it's time for the first cut with our circular saw. With this first cut, we're actually going to trim the jig so it will pinpoint the exact location where our blade's going to go. And as you can see, clamping our jig to the piece of material is super easy as well. Right, and with the jig now dialed in, let's make a test cut. Okay, I'm going to place a line just over here, and I'm going to offer our jig right to that point. And now we should have a perfect cut on the line. And there you have it, absolutely dead on perfect edge. And there you go, great solution for any circular saw if you want to have perfect and straight cuts every single time, with the added benefit of a clamping solution that actually works and it's easy to use. And with the dimensions I gave you, you do have a 35cm crosscut capacity. However, depending on your needs, you can go longer or shorter. But now let's amend this jig slightly to accommodate a jigsaw as well. The first thing we need to do is to actually drill a hole with a Forstner bit like we did just a minute ago. Now I'm going to use the indicator just over here on the base of my jigsaw to make sure I'm in the right place when drilling the hole. And now we're going to do something very similar what we've done with our circular saw. I'm going to run the jigsaw along our edge here, and it will create a cutout in our jig that will indicate where the blade's gonna go every single time, so we can align our jig with a piece of material. And now we can align the cutout in our jig with the line itself to make sure, well, our cut will be super accurate. And of course, you can use this edge depending on which one is the part of the cutout that remains in your project and which one is an offcut. And again, absolutely perfect line cut with a jigsaw with the help of our little jig. Okay, now it's time for the final upgrade to our jig, mainly so it's able to actually use a router with it. The only downside of this solution is the fact that each time with this jig you will have to use the same router bit. However, if you do require to use different router bits, then I think this is pretty easy to make another version for a larger router bit. But I'm going to show you that even if you want to create grooves or channels or anything like that that's wider than your router bit, well, that's not going to be a problem. So I took the base from my router, and again, I'm going to more or less trace out the inside of it. So yes, we need to cut that piece out. Okay, for the next step, what we need to do, some scrap material, and we're gonna clamp everything down. Put it in place, and now we're gonna route out a channel. Now you can use any router size you want, depending on your particular needs. For me, this one is a straight bit, 10mm. And you carry on until you've got a channel. And with that done, our jig is fully completed. So let me show you how this works. Now that channel there, that's 10mm, as that's the width of my router bit. So for example, let's do this. I'm gonna mark one line and then another line. So the dado I want to cut in this is wider than my actual router bit. So how do you do this? Well, check this out. First of all, with the edge on the right hand side, you marry that up with that line on the right hand side and simply clamp the jig down. And now offer the router and start cutting the material. And now simply shift our jig so that edge will marry up with our mark. Perfect little dado, sorted with no issues at all, exactly to our markings. And there you go, such a simple jig. You do have clamping solution in the middle. On the edge, support for your circular saw. Right over here, jigsaw. And on the other side, we do have ability to actually run our routers against the straight edge just there. Now I must say, this is the most versatile jig I have made in a very long time, and the simplicity of it absolutely beats everything. Now you can think how you could improve this design to suit your particular needs and your tools as well. And I think this simple jig will help you out in creating nice and straight cuts to elevate the quality of your projects to the next level. Now I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, drop me that like button down below, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. And at this point, I also wanted to say a massive thank you to my Patreons for the ongoing support. And if you want to join my Patreons, I do have some links down below in the description of this video. And before you go, check out these two cool playlists. Plenty of great videos already there. For today, that's all. Thank you so much. Take care.